everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Most Important Conversation. September, how are you doing today?
Doing great. The
Doing
lovely
good. Doing
80s
good.
here in Florida now. This is the nice time of year in Florida.
Ah,
When
yes.
it's not
The time.
blistering hot.
Yeah, you can actually go out and enjoy the weather. How long does that last for? Is it like about 6 months, maybe a 6 month window?
Yeah, I think it starts really getting too warm around the end of March. So between now and March, we can have our
Yeah.
windows open. Sometimes it gets a little too chilly for to have the windows open. I mean, too chilly, like 70 is a little too chilly. 71
No, I can see that.
is a
Yeah.
little
Listen,
chilly for us.
when I
Yeah.
lived in Las Vegas, I remember, complaining to my friends, "Oh my gosh, it's like, so cold," because it would get into, it would get into the 50s sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And during the winter.
Yes.
And that was patio season. So patio season opened in like October. Like everyone
Yeah.
would go outside. There's no patio season in the summertime, right? Your pool season, not patio season. So I get what you're saying there. Well, what do you want to dig into today? We can talk about patio season, or we can talk about something else.
Well, I do love patio season, but I'm actually interested in something a little deeper. As you know, the
Mm.
elections here in the state happened recently, and
Hmm.
I'm sure the people who voted for Kamala are maybe working through some things. I know some people who I know personally are just having a rough day today, or having a rough day after the elections and pushing through that. So before we were talking about this is an opportunity to look inward. That's an outward circumstance that is controlling, or we're allowing that outside circumstance to control the emotions and how we navigate our life and the things that we worry about and the things that we're concerned about. And the direction of the conversation is utilizing that as an example or an opportunity to learn how to go inward. What does that mean? Why do we need to do that? What's the purpose of it? It seems obvious, but those cliche terms that we hear that, life is short, blah, 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 you hear that. But you don't really put meaning to it until you actually have an experience of how quickly somebody can leave this experience. They're here one second, and then the very next, they're having a heart attack. Like that. That's how fast it happens. So I didn't understand what that meant until I experienced that. And so here's another cliche thing of, well, go inward to find your happiness. Okay, that means something to somebody who's taken that journey. But for somebody who hasn't taken that journey, what kind of picture can we paint? What kind of insights can we share?
Mm-hmm. So I have a background. My areas of study when I was in university, and my degrees are in political science, psychology, and communications. And interestingly enough, those three areas of study, which I spent and continue to educate myself in, are very appropriate for the period of time that we find ourselves in right now. I was very much a political animal for most of my adult life. And actually, it's only in, I want to say, even the last sort of 5 years that I've started to kind of extricate myself out of, participating actively in that world, and having the opinions that I have about that world be my guiding opinions. I've chosen to focus on other areas of how to uplift humanity, how to connect humanity, beginning with how to reconnect more authentically to ourselves. And then when we are connected to ourselves, our ability to meaningfully and deeply and profoundly connect to each other. And also then to be able to meaningfully and deeply connect to the natural world around us, and how those three elements, when combined, create a profound and powerful human experience that is very different from one where I think most people exist a lot of the time. I used to exist there a lot of the time, in the world of power and power dynamics. So politics and political science is really just the study of power and how human beings organize themselves, how people organize themselves around the structures of power and how they wield them as levers and manipulate and all of that. But that sort of world, that's a world of power constructs, is a totally different world from ontology, which is the world of beingness. And the world of power dynamics and constructs become a trap, quite frankly, that people will find themselves in and not even realize they're there. And there's an addictive quality to it, because when you're playing a game of power dynamics, there's also winning and losing. There's winners and losers. And so we become very identified. Our ego becomes very identified with I won or I lost, right? As you were saying, there's people who, since the election, the re-election of Donald Trump on the Democratic side, who are on the losing side of things. And so there's this whole identity thing. And then on the flip side as well, there's winners on the pro-Donald Trump side that are the winners now. And their ego is equally wrapped up in that. I'm interested in helping people cross the bridge from being trapped in these power dynamics that turn us all into others. So we other each other, right? Anyone that's not me, anyone that's not like me, they're othered, they're less than, they're objectified, they're not human, or whatever goes on when we get trapped in a model of power dynamics. I'm interested in an ontological or being-based dynamic, which is what is the essence of what does it mean to be human? How do we thrive as human beings? What makes us fully come alive? And I just want to kind of make the statement that politics has never and will never provide solutions for our own sense of happiness, our own sense of internal creative power, our own sense of self-trust, our own sense of security. If we are looking for what we can trust, what we can feel secure in, where we get our power from, if we are looking outside of ourselves, we have, without realizing it, already stepped into the position of being a victim. We may not be a victim. People in Donald Trump's camp right now, since the election, don't feel like they're victims. They feel like they're winners, right? But they are very much a victim in the same way that people on the Democratic side, who also were putting their hope and trust and sense of identity and power external to themselves, they too are victims. Because you have to understand, you're not just a victim when you are being victimized. That's sort of the end result of being a victim. But you're a victim whenever you are deferring your autonomy and your power, and you are giving it out to something else. You are projecting it out to something else. So when we give our power to a political party or to a leader or to some cause or identity that's outside of ourselves, when we give that power away, we have set ourselves up to be a victim. Because as soon as that situation changes, and we're no longer in the winning camp, and the winning camp can delude us from seeing how we are set up to be a victim. Here's how fast it could go down. Let's say those on the Republican side, the Donald Trump team, the winning team, didn't win. The morning of the election, after the election happened, that morning, they would be feeling like a victim. The only thing that makes them not feel like a victim is they won. So it's sort of like, they're basking in the illusion that they somehow have attained something for themselves. But it's just an illusion, because if the coin flip had gone the other way, they would be a victim, just like the Democrats are in victim mentality today. So my encouragement to people is, I do believe it's, especially if you live in a democracy, I do believe it's important to vote, but I also believe it's important to create some distance between your identification with the power dynamics that constitute the political game. Because and there's lots of different political games and power dynamics. Incidentally, it's not just the world of politics that we can get into. It can happen on a more micro level in our community. Maybe we identify with certain groups or sub-communities or whatever. Whenever you are giving your power away, your creative license, your creative power, your autonomy, your self-trust, your ability to authentically access and be yourself in every circumstance, whenever you give that away and defer and become something you're not, you're a victim right there in that moment. You may not have experienced the victim experience of a trauma or anything yet, but you're set up for it. As soon as those external things change, oh, woe is me. And we live in this society right now that is a grievance-based culture, because so many people on either side of the political divide or whatever group you're a part of, so many people are not standing in their own power, and they're giving their power to other people, other groups, other causes, other individuals. Stop it. That's what I want to say about this as a starting point. So
Stop it. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Bob Hart, referencing Bob Hart. We talked about that a couple of times. So there's a few things that you talked about here. Bernie was, and what comes to mind is how Bernie was so attached, is I think the word I want to use here. He was so attached to the political arena of this life. He was really involved. He loved learning about it. He liked researching the things. He was really in it. And through his lanes, he felt that entrepreneurs need to know what's going on a political level, because it will dictate the success of their business. Maybe he wouldn't use those words, but that was always my interpretation. We've had conversations on it, because I just don't believe that at all. In 2008, during the market, 2007, 2008, and the market crash, I was an entrepreneur then. My lifestyle didn't change. My income got better. It was seeing the opportunity. And what comes to mind around all of this is the conversation I was just having with a friend about the concern of AI replacing jobs. And I said, well, I'm sure it's going to replace jobs. I mean, some of them, even when I just asked Chad, I asked, what are some of the jobs it's likely to replace? Administrative roles, data entry, scheduling, customer support via chat box, retail cashiers, maybe self-checkout systems, which are already experiencing. So it's a slow progression of these replacements. And I asked, well, what kind of jobs could it create? And AI and machine learning specialists, such as designing, training, and refining the AI systems. And so there's other things that it created a list around all of this stuff. And when you were talking about this through this lens of looking outward, especially within the political system, to play a part in the control that it has on the perceived control that it has on your life. So, for example, now that Donald Trump is in office, I'm going to have this happen to my business, or that's going to happen to my business, whatever the story is. But just like we were talking on a previous episode about, and you even said this in meditation today, it comes down to, what do you believe? Whatever you believe, it's true. That's what you're going to experience, whatever it is that you believe. And this idea that AI is going to remove all of these jobs, one of the examples, she goes, well, what about somebody like copywriting? I go, well, I mean, I use AI all the time to write copy for what we need. So yeah, I don't need that. She goes, well, what would happen if somebody that was a copywriter, what would happen to them? They won't have a job. I said, maybe, or maybe they can design an AI that is them, that is their style, that's programmed in their way of doing it, that person's way of doing it. Because there's thousands and thousands of copywriters. So there's not one copywriter for everybody. It comes down to the tonality and how it works with you and things like that. So you could pivot that way, but then the AI at this point isn't able to load it into your email system, read back the data, make adjustments on the copy. So there's still some manual work that's involved around that at this point. Now, next month, that may change because of how quickly AI is evolving. But I just want to go back to this one part and kind of hear you expand on it a bit, which is whatever it is that we believe is what we're going to experience. If you believe that politics has the power to dictate the success of your business or the success of your life or whatever that is, then that's what you're going to experience. Well, what about somebody who works a 9 to 5 and eggs cost $9 a dozen? Okay. Have an open mind. Maybe there's an opportunity that's in front of you that if you had an open mind about what it is that you believe, that no matter what happens, I'm always good. I have faith in myself. I know that I'm capable of doing it. Then that's the belief that's going to come along. Just because somebody works a 9 to 5, it'd be lovely if they knew that there was more for them, if they would just open their awareness of what it is that they believe is true for themselves, especially when it comes to money.
Yeah. So belief is everything. And coming back to the AI thing just briefly, because it's so salient for us right now. In 2003, I think it was, WordPress was created. Not in the way we know it today, but that's when it was first founded. And WordPress by 2008, 2009 was a sort of becoming the leading website building platform. And the genius of WordPress back then was that you didn't need to know how to code in order to build a website, right? Yeah. So it democratized the ability for anyone who had the creative impulse and need to create a website and to have an online presence. It made their ability to do that easier. To this day, WordPress is still the sort of gold standard platform, and they have various versions. Why am I bringing this up? Just because technologies democratize the ability of people to be able to create what they want doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily make everyone not have a job or a role anymore. So, everyone could have learned WordPress and no one would have needed to theoretically ever hire a web designer and a programmer again. Mm-hmm. And that's not what happened. Most people never bothered to learn WordPress, and they still went to other people who took the time to learn how to perfect the use of this technology, and they paid them to build them websites using WordPress, even though the intent of WordPress was to democratize and make it accessible and available to everyone. It was still only a finite percentage of people who bothered to learn it. AI will be the same way. Not everyone is going to learn how to use all the different AI platforms. Even when AI master AI platforms roll out, people aren't going to learn how to use those. There's still going to be a role for people who want to put the time in, be creators, and there's still going to be careers for them, in that area as a side note. So now I know you were bringing that up from a place of the importance of belief, right? So people have beliefs about AI, people have beliefs about the political situation, that's always changing and evolving from one election cycle to another. And I say this from a place of deep empathy. I used to be very much a political animal. I studied it in school. I participated in politics at the highest levels. I was very enrolled in the game, and it is a game. Right? Here's how you know it's a game. And you kind of brought this up at the beginning. And all of it's a game too. Even the stuff with AI is a game, whether you choose to be an entrepreneur or a job in a day job, that's the game you're playing. Everything is a game, because when you're on your deathbed, when you're literally laying in a hospital or in a hospice or at home and you have days to live, I promise you, you don't give a shit about any of the game. You're not caring about politics. You don't give a damn about your career. You don't give a damn about any of it. It's like the reality of our mortality. This is why I love that song by Tim McGraw that came out years ago, to live like you were dying. Mm-hmm. Right? And that doesn't just mean the way that, in the song, he talks about doing all the things you always said you were going to go do and never did, because you always came up with these excuses, right? So you didn't really live and you put off all the things you wanted to try and experience. So he talks about it from that perspective. But if we dig a little deeper, we truly ask, what does it mean to live as though we are dying? It means not giving your power away to others. It means being wholly and completely, authentically yourself. It means expressing yourself honestly and authentically. It means caring about those in your life and wanting to meaningfully and deeply connect to them, right? It means wanting to leave the world in a better place than perhaps when you found it, or the way that you lived your life, so that future generations can also enjoy. It means no longer fighting and holding grudges with people that you may have been holding grudges with for years, for silly, stupid, nonsensical things that our ego became inflamed around and bothered by. And well, God damn it, I'm never going to talk to you again. I mean, the whole thing is really a game, and you only get it when you are faced with your mortality, when you're faced with yourself. When we are dying, we are faced with our authentic self, and we reflect: who have we been? How have we been? Who have we hurt? Who have we loved? How have we contributed to the world? These are the kinds of things. Now, if we were going to live like we were dying, those would be the kinds of things we would be thinking about every single day. We would center ourselves at the beginning of each day, and we would say, what is really important? Who do I want to be? And if we could play the game of dropping into, what if this was my last day? How would I show up in the world? That's an ontological game. That's a different game than the game of power, politics, money, all the stuff that we confuse for real life. And it has us go to war with one another, demean one another, hate one another, and all the stuff that's going on. If you look at the political sphere right now, not just in the United States, but around the world, it is a toxic, hot mess. I mean, it is awful, right? Nothing is happening good there. Nothing is actually being resolved there. It's a fantasy that we all have, that we think, if I give my power to this political cause or this thing, that all of my life's issues are going to disappear. Everything is going to be great. That's never happened in the history of the world. Name a single political election or government leader who has ever improved humanity. Absolutely. It's never happened, and it never will happen, because it's the game of ego, power dynamics, greed, and it's humans giving their power away. At TMIC, we stand for helping human beings deeply and profoundly connect to themselves, their power, their essence as a creator, and the ability to not be a victim, but to stand in the power of who you are, and to create from that place, and to treat each day as a gift and as a special place that you can have a profound impact on if you choose. Now, it begins with altering your belief system. It begins with understanding that as a creator, what you believe informs your perceptual filter and determines what data gets in your head. If you believe that the world is a scary, awful, nasty place, confirmation bias teaches us that everywhere you look, every day, you'll find scary, nasty, awful things, because you've trained your brain to see that based on what you believe. If you believe that you are powerful, you are a creator, and you want to actually create a better place for your family, for your friends, for your community, you don't have to have these massive national or global aspirations. You don't have to think that big if you don't want to. It's up to you. But if that's not what's of interest in you, fine, don't do it. But be in the service of your immediate friends, family, and community. Be of service to them, coming from a place of creativity and possibility. So everything is a choice. None of us are victims unless we choose to be. And the moment we give our power away and we give our autonomy away to the game, and we don't hold it, we're no longer living like we're dying. We're actually dying while we're living. It is the total inverse. And that's why so many people feel so empty right now and feel so lost. And so it doesn't matter what side wins or loses, because that's a game I now am no longer frankly interested in. I'm interested in the game where what can we create and collaborate around together? And if we all show up to that game, living as though this was our last day, who would we be? How would we show up? And that, I think, is the path to transforming the trajectory of things for us.
I think I know the question to this, but does the experience or the game, the political game, interfere with the game that you now choose to play?
Yeah, of course it does, because it's still variables out there But the reality is none of us will ever control those variables. So I'm not saying be ignorant of it. Be aware of what's happening. Be aware of how the rules to that game are changing and how the changing of those rules may impact how and what and where and when you can do what you want to do. But getting mad at it or fighting to change the rules all the time, like we're not omnipresent. So if I'm spending my whole life fighting inside of the political power dynamic game, fighting to change the rules, and then, oh, they changed the rules on me, I'm going to change them back on them. Oh, they changed them back on me, I'm going to change them back on them. Guess what you're not doing over here? Creating your life. Like you only have so much time and energy. And if our attention and our life force energy and our emotions are all wrapped up in who's winning or losing the game of power, we're never playing the game of what we can create, what's possible in our life and for the world.
What's one step somebody can take to, if slowing down and examining our belief systems, like, what that feels like when you become, oh my gosh, look what I'm doing. We talked about this recently, where you were attached to a project and you were able to pull back and go, oh my gosh, I'm too attached to this project. That's become having the awareness of a belief, right?
Yeah.
If that's a new journey for somebody, what's one thing that they can do to begin doing that habitually, where you notice your behaviors, you notice your belief, that you notice that background conversation that you're having about, oh my God, so-and-so isn't off this means I'm going to be struggling in my business, or whatever the story is. How do you start that?
Well, I think it's two simple things. One, I would encourage everyone to join our complimentary meditation every morning, because that is 1 hour every day that you get to pause, center yourself, reflect on what's important, do some introspective work. We always start with a 20, 25-minute teaching, and then we do a 30-minute meditation and or visualization. And that is a great way to begin your day, so that you go into your day centered from that place. So that begins to retrain the brain, the thoughts, the emotions into a different way of being. So I would do that. And then also I would encourage people to join our whole life architecture community, to be inside of a community of people who are saying, I understand that politics has a role. The political world isn't going anywhere, quite frankly. And there's always going to be that dynamic and those elements that we have to pay attention to. But I don't have to live and breathe and devote my entire existence to worrying about it, fighting with it, trying to win at it. Like, that doesn't need to be your life. And it's become people's lives for so many people, unfortunately, recently. And you're never going to find your life force essence there. You're just going to find more exhaustion. Sometimes when you get the wind, like people on the Donald Trump Republican side, they've been elated. They're going to be elated for a long time. Good things are going to be happening to them. Hear my language. Things happening to them. They're victims even when they're winning, because the winning is happening to you or the losing is happening to you. And we never relate to the winning happening to us as being the same problem of when the losing is happening. It's just because it feels good, we think it's great, but we've still given our power away. We're still not running the show. We're not coming from a place of authenticity. Soon as the weather turns in the political field, now suddenly the losing is happening to you. Oh my God, my life's over. Right? There's no power in that game. So observe it, know where the rules have shifted for those who are playing that game and will exhaust themselves and burn out and die as a result of it, and not live a full life. But I'm interested in working with creators. I'm interested in working with people who want to create new products, new ideas, new services, new art. That's what gives us the most life as human beings, right? So I would connect into a community of people who are doing that, because they say you become like the 5 people you hang the most with. And that doesn't just mean physically anymore, because we can hang with each other virtually. And when we're constantly have the news on and the political dialogue is running in the background, that's who we're spending time with, those people who are in that dialogue. You need to get into a different dialogue if you actually want to start feeling alive again. And I promise you, the path of political power dynamics and all of that crap, And there's politics in the business world as well. Don't get enrolled in that. Understand what's going on. Where's the law? How has it changed? What can I do and not do? How do I play the game? But remember, it's a game. You have to have an off-ramp from the game to the authentic you. So the authentic you can off-ramp, and every day you can be with yourself, be with others who are also interested in being with themselves, creating together. Start with meditation every day, dig into the whole life architecture program, be in community with people who are having a different conversation than the same one that is just, it's too much right now. It's everywhere, and if you're exhausted by it, come over here. We'd like to create with you. That's my thought.
Well, you referenced the TMIC community, the free community that we have going on, as well as our weekday meditations that happens every Monday through Friday. And for those that are listening that are interested, you want to be a part of the community, simply go to our website, TMICglobal.com, and you will find where to access that and join the free membership there. And in that free membership is where you'll also get access to the daily meditations as well.
Yeah, and I also want to put a plug in for those of you who are inspired at the possibility, and I think there's going to be more people like this with the advent of AI and the shuffling and the changing of business dynamics and how we work and roles changing inside of companies. And there's going to be a lot of people who want to take a step into the entrepreneurial world. And so September, I also want to plug CEO Space as a place for people who want to take an entrepreneurial journey. TMIC is affiliated with and a partner with CEO Space, but CEO Space is specifically designed for people who want to step into that entrepreneurial journey. It's been around 35 years. It's got a great history. And so, let's encourage people to go there too, because entrepreneurialism is an act of creation. It is a version of creation. It could be an entrepreneur, you can be an artist. Both are connected to the same creative principles. And so, I advocate for any way that human beings can connect to their authentic creator self. And so if you're interested in business and you want to create in the context of business, that's an entrepreneur, and CEO Space is a great place for you to go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd like to explain that our matrix, what we believe inside of here's a belief again. What we choose to believe inside of CEO Space is that entrepreneurialism is a journey of being an entrepreneur and doing entrepreneurialism. So there's the being as the person who's creating the business, and then there's also the doing, the action, the things that need to take place in order to build a sustainable business. And we create a pathway on how to get there. And we talk about this, Chad, you and I talk about this a lot, where we're not ever telling the business owner what to create.
That's right.
We're showing them the structure of what they want to create and how to make it a sustainable business, the structure behind it. But we still need people to come to the tables as creators of this is what I want to create as an extension of me, as an extension of my calling, as this gift that I want to bring to the world, whatever that is. Because as within TMIC, we're really interested in working with people that want to make a difference in the world, something positive, a good change. Add something, add some magic, add some joy, whatever that may be. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you all for joining. Check out TMIC Global, check out CEO Space if entrepreneurialism is a journey you want to be on, and get the hell out of all of this nasty, bickering, political crap. I mean, understand where the guardrails are and then let it be. And drop into your creative self, connect to people you care about, even if they don't see eye to eye with you from a political spectrum. That's irrelevant. When you're on your deathbed, if you're living like you were dying, you wouldn't give a shit about that. So stop caring now. It doesn't matter. Okay. Anyway, we'll see you all on another episode of The Most Important Conversations. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.
That concludes this episode of The Most Important Conversations. This in-depth conversation could set you on the path to self-improvement, which is essential if you want to be an effective leader and take meaningful action in your life. If you enjoyed this episode and want more of these stimulating discussions, you can find them at TMICglobal.com. Remember, the world is at a crossroads right now. You can't afford to waste this opportunity to take charge of your life, build meaningful relationships with others, and co-create a brighter tomorrow. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.